Hey everyone, today I'm in Pawhuska and we are at the Pawhuska City Cemetery, and this is a great one to visit here if you ever find yourself in Pawhuska. And this one person is huge, especially if you like the Old West, or more specifically, old westerns on television, movies. Now there are several entrances into the cemetery. You can see them right over there, and then there's also some on the far right side. This is section 2 where we're at, and it's basically right in front of that mausoleum right there, which I have visited the outside of that before. It's been locked every time, but there is a story inside there that is talked about in the book Killers of the Flower Moon, and I've never been able to get on the inside just to show that one, but that is where one of them is located. But we're here to visit these 3 graves right here, and more specifically this one. So you can see the last name is Johnson, and it says Precious Memories, Carol E., October 20th, 1920 to March 27th, 1994. And then she was married on October 31st, 1941 to Ben Johnson. And this is the son. That's why it's in quotation marks where it says son. He was born June 13th, 1918 and died April 8th, 1996. If you're a fan of westerns, then you know who this guy is. And it's very fitting to see them. You got a tree there. They're standing underneath, both of them. And the sun is setting there. But it's nice to see that there are flowers here. And it's certainly well visited. If you look at all the coins on top of here, see quarters, nickels, dimes, pennies. I don't see any other tokens of remembrance unless somebody's placed it on the back side maybe. Nope, it's just all coins. He is very well visited here in the Pawhuska area, and there's actually a museum here that is named in his honor, and they're also trying to get a Ben Johnson Days going. He was a big rodeo guy and a big actor. Francis Benjamin Johnson Jr. was born in Foraker, Oklahoma on June 13th, 1918. Now his father's name was Ben Johnson Sr., and Jr. also liked to go by Ben Johnson, but to avoid confusion, he usually went by the nickname Son. Sr. had a place northwest of Pawhuska and was a respected rancher and champion roper who is also an honoree at the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum. The city of Pawhuska honors Ben Sr. every year with a memorial rodeo named after him. Ben Jr. grew up in the Pawhuska area and cowboyed on the Chapman Bernard Ranch starting in 1929. His father had become a foreman on the ranch, which was one of the largest in the state. The ranch at one time was 100,000 acres and ran around 18,000 to 20,000 head of cattle through it each and every year. There were always 10 to 40 cowboys there all the time, and Ben Jr. was one of these cowhands. Ben Jr. also enjoyed rodeoing and probably would have made a career in the rodeo circuit if it had not been for a chance encounter with people who were making a movie for Howard Hughes. The year was 1940, and Hughes was making The Outlaw starring Jane Russell. His crew bought a load of horses out of the ranch, and Johnson was asked to deliver them to the movie location near Flagstaff, Arizona. At the time, Ben was working for $30 a month, and the $300 they offered him was more than he could pass up. After the shoot, he took the horses on to California and ended up staying in Hollywood. Ben said, "They decided I rode a horse pretty good, so they put me up in their Screen Actors Guild, and I went to work as a wrangler, stuntman, and a double for actors like John Wayne, Joe McRae, and Jimmy Stewart." His work as a stuntman caught the eye of director John Ford, who hired Johnson for stunt work in the 1948 film Fort Apache as a riding double for Henry Fonda. During the shooting, the horses pulling a wagon with 3 men in it stampeded. Johnson, who happened to be sitting on top of a horse, stopped the runaway wagon and saved the men. This looked like a scene out of a movie, but this was real. Ford was so impressed and grateful that he promised Johnson he would be rewarded for what he had done. Ben was just hoping that it would be another doubling job or maybe even a small speaking role in a movie. But Ford offered Ben a 7-year contract, and after Ben got a few lines into the contract, he noticed that it said $5,000 per week. Ben immediately stopped reading and signed it and handed it back to Ford before he could change his mind. In Ben's mind, it was a crazy amount of money in 1949. Ben went right to work on such films as Wagon Master, Mighty Joe Young, She Wore a Yellow Ribbon, and Rio Grande. In the movie Rio Grande, he and fellow actors Claude Jarman Jr. and Harry Carey Jr. did all of their own stunt work in a spectacular Roman riding scene that is still a film classic to this day. Anyone who views that scene can easily see that Johnson is a real horseman. Despite his movie success, Johnson still felt he had something to prove to himself in the rodeo world. His father had won 3 calf roping championships, and Junior wanted to see what he could do himself. So in 1953, he decided to take a year off and hit the rodeo circuit. He had been rodeoing all along in between movies, and in 1949 he set a calf roping record at Pendleton, Oregon, where he roped and tied in 12.5 seconds with a 60-foot score. "I really thought I was something," Ben said. "I got in a position where I could afford to travel, so I decided to see just what I could do. That was the year everybody else had hard luck, and I beat them out and won the world. I came home with a championship, and I didn't have $3. All I had was a wore-out automobile and a mad wife. Fortunately for him, they did let him back into the movie business, and he decided to stay there for good." In his career, Johnson appeared in more than 300 movies. Some of the better known are Fort Defiance, Shane, War Drums, One-Eyed Jacks, Major Dundee, A Rare Breed, Will Penny, The Wild Bunch, The Undefeated, Chisholm, Junior Bonner, The Getaway, The Train Robbers, Dillinger, The Sugarland Express, Bite the Bullet, Breakheart Pass, and The Swarm. But despite the great number of movies, Ben Johnson was never a household name until 1971. That year, he won the Academy Award for the Best Actor in a Supporting Role for his portrayal of the pool hall owner in The Last Picture Show. It was a movie from Larry McMurtry, a novel by the same name. "The Academy Award changed my whole life," Ben said. "You win one of these Oscars and at once people think you know something. You don't know any more than you did before, but they think you do. And the studios offer you more jobs for a lot more money." During his time working in Hollywood, Ben became really good friends with John Wayne. Ben even brought John to Pawhuska, Oklahoma. Together, the two operated a ranch in Arizona. Ben said that he always enjoyed working with the Duke because he was easy to get along with, and it was more of a vacation than actual work. While filming Chisholm with John Wayne in 1969, Ben received news that his sister, Mary Ann Johnson Miller, had suddenly died of a brain aneurysm. John Wayne chartered a private plane for Ben to fly home to Oklahoma for the funeral in Pawhuska. She was 48 years old at the time. Ben married Carol Elaine Jones in 1941, and it lasted until her death at the age of 73 on March 27, 1994. They had no children together. She was the daughter of noted Hollywood horse wrangler Clarence Fat Jones. Ben once said of his time in Hollywood, "I've been one of the more fortunate people in the business. I've been able to play Ben Johnson and make a living at it. Everybody in town is a better actor than I am, but no one can play Ben Johnson as good as I can." Ben Johnson continued to work almost steadily until his death from a heart attack at the age of 77. He collapsed while visiting his 96-year-old mother in Mesa, Arizona on April 8, 1996. He is buried in the Pawhuska City Cemetery next to his wife, father, and stepmother. This is the same cemetery where his sister and his mother are located, and his mother died on October 16, 2000 at the age of 101. Ben was truly an authentic cowboy and as real as you could possibly get. He knew all the ins and outs of anything pertaining to horses, cattle, and ranches. Even Harry Carey Jr. once said that he was the best cowboy that he had ever seen. And to this day, Ben remains the only person to have ever won both an Oscar and a world championship in rodeo. He also had a collection of other awards, including a People's Choice Award, Golden Boot Award, New York Film Critics Award, and a Golden Globe. In 1982, he was inducted into the Western Performers Hall of Fame at the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum in Oklahoma City. Ben even has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. But Ben also had a big heart and was very generous. Most anyone who met him loved him. One of the things he loved most was his celebrity rodeos, in which he put on at the Lazy E Arena in Guthrie, Oklahoma. The proceeds went to some charities that were near and dear to him: the Children's Medical Research, Inc. and the Children's Hospital of Oklahoma. The event over the years has raised millions of dollars for both of them. Ben was a real American cowboy who exemplified ideal cowboy standards. Ben Johnson Sr. was born in Harrison, Arkansas on February 19, 1896. His father moved the family to Tulsa, where he became a livestock auctioneer and also a piano player at a local theater for silent movies. Ben left home in the 5th grade after seeing cowboys in motion pictures, and he decided that that's what he wanted to do as his profession. In 1923, he set a world record for calf roping and retained it until 1926. In 1927, he set a steer roping record with an average of 18 seconds on 3 steers. He was a champion steer roper in Cheyenne, Wyoming in 1922, 1923, and 1926. In 1922, he also won the title of World Champion. In addition to that, he was also a great bronc rider. He broke horses for the British government prior to our entrance into World War I. Ben did so much ranching and rodeoing that it took a strain on his young 7-year marriage that he had with Ollie, Ben Jr.'s mother, and they divorced in 1924. The two of them had Ben Jr. and one other daughter, Mary Ann Johnson Miller, who is the one that died in 1969. Sr. remarried to a lady named Eileen, and they had one daughter together named Helen Johnson Christensen. Eileen died of stomach cancer, and Sr. never remarried again after that. Ben remained a cowboy and a foreman on the Bernard Chapman Ranch until his death at the age of 56. He died on September 15, 1952, while undergoing cancer surgery in Winfield, Kansas. 2 years later, the Ben Johnson Memorial Steer Roping Rodeo was established and is held each year on Father's Day. The Ben Johnson Cowboy Museum is located in Pawhuska, Oklahoma, and is full of different artifacts from Ben Johnson Sr. and Jr. In addition to that, they also have a buffalo that you can sit on while you get your photo taken. They also have a lot dedicated to other noted cowboys, ranches, and celebrities of Osage County. If you are visiting Pawhuska, it is truly a place that you don't want to skip. So that's going to do it for today's cemetery visit. I hope you learned a little bit of something and you enjoyed this one, especially if you're into the old westerns, which is a big part of why I guess that you're here on this channel. You either love westerns or you love old west tales of outlaws and lawmen. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.